Okay, so you guys are going to hate me, and before the audience hates me, please follow me on Twitter at Jamie Kilstein.
Send him your hate there.
Subscribe to my podcast, Instagram at the Jamie Kilstein. Isn't that more evidence for, one, more police training, and two, if you're going to own a gun? So for me, I want to own a gun now, and I've been anti-gun, but I don't want to own a gun until I know, just like with jiu-jitsu, just like that I can proficiently, that I can be taught and that I can train every week, especially under stress. So isn't that also an example of why people should get training before they get a firearm? Absolutely. And law enforcement actually maybe needs more training so that even though Tamir Rice, even though maybe the toy gun looked more realistic, that you're confident enough to assess the situation before you just open fire on who turns out to be a kid.
Yep. Everybody wants to go after law enforcement with these shootings. And how about train the crook not to point the gun at the law enforcement?
Of course.
Look at the knucklehead the other day pulled up next to the traffic stop, right? Did he have an axe or something?
Yep.
And he went after the officer. No, the officer was trying to back up, do the best he could to keep that separation because it's 21 feet, fellas. Well, that's the number. It's 21 feet.
I think we can do both. Like, this is the argument that happens. I remember even when I was in super wokey mode, when I would advocate for women to train jiu-jitsu, people would go, you're victim blaming. It's not their fault. They shouldn't have to do anything. You know, we need to teach men how not to rape. And it's like, well, yes, we do. But also, until people stop, training jiu-jitsu will help you.
Yeah. I'll finish with this on this.
Yeah, please.
I've said it and I'll say it again. And that is that if you comply to all the criminals out there, the ones that carry guns, they shouldn't have guns, the felons, all these guys are going to go.
My fans tuning in.
If you comply, you will not die. That's it. It's very simple. If you comply, you will not die. And when you look at Michael Brown and all these others, I mean, Michael Brown's fingerprint was on the officer's weapon. So if you're out there fighting and holding court on the side of the road, this and that, there's a high probability something could go wrong, and it could cost you your life. So just comply. If you comply, criminals, you will not die.
Yeah, a lot of these circumstances, you see people, not just shootings, they just start arguing with the cops, and they don't understand that whether you want it to be reality or not, it is. If a cop is stopping you, you will gain nothing by fighting with him and talking with him. That's the funniest thing. It's like you're being arrested. I love it when I hear these activists at Occupy, they were like, I have not been read my rights. Like, but they watch movies and they think a cop has to Mirandize you because they watched you throw a brick at somebody. These people don't know what they're talking about. You keep your mouth shut. Unfortunately, you know, there are instances where police have wrongly arrested people. During Occupy Wall Street, I actually filmed the cops wrongly arrest somebody. They lied in the police report, got a different officer to sign off on it, and I filmed it. I want those officers charged criminally, but that doesn't happen. That to me is the problem. The issue is when an officer is breaking the law, violating their oath to the Constitution. But if this is what really frustrates me too. There's a video where there's like a black dude walking down the street and the cops are like, hey, come and talk to us for a minute. Stop. And he goes, no. And they're like, you are being detained. Stop. And he goes, no. And they fight with him and they're like, I can't believe the cops did that. And it's like, dude, cops have a right to stop you, to ask you questions. They can detain you for a small amount of time. It's the way the system goes. You might not like it. I get it. But fighting with cops when they're like, what are you doing in this area, is not going to win anything for you. You're not going to win on activism. You're not going to win on the law. All you're going to do is make everything worse. Everyone agrees.
Yeah, I mean, it seems commonsensical though, right? And people will. So I've been thinking about this, and this is something I don't think I've really discussed on this podcast. No, actually, we did kind of talk about this the other day, but it makes sense in a very polarized environment where people have very different opinions that we're going to end up disagreeing on things at such a fundamental level that there are certain issues where we won't be able to reach a compromise, right? And so whether you're talking about abortion or homosexuality or any of these other issues, when it comes to police shootings, these are not matters of principle. These are case-by-case situations that have to be investigated, right? Yeah. If you hear a police officer shot someone, it's not, I'm for that or I'm against that. It's, all right, well, let's look into it and see what happened. But for whatever reason, we are in a place in this country where people will hear that a police officer shot someone and they will immediately know that he is guilty. And not only that he's guilty, but if the person was a minority, that he was guilty and he did it because that person was a minority. That is insane.
There are stories that I think should be pointed out, but people need to be careful not to conflate the outliers and the accidents. So there's that one famous moment where a guy gets pulled over, a black dude gets pulled over in a van. He gets out of the vehicle. He's like, the cop says, get out of the vehicle. He gets out, and the cop says, show me your ID. And he goes, okay. He turns back into the car, and the cop just shoots him.
Jeez.
And the cop was like, he was going for something. It's like,
It's a problem.
You told him to get the ID. Right. You have someone mentioned Philando Castile. Are you familiar with this case?
Yeah.
He was legally allowed to carry a weapon. And the cop panicked and shot him. There's another issue of, like, he shouldn't have been shot, but he was also smoking pot while he was driving. So that kind of muddied things up. But he shouldn't have been shot.
It's not a death penalty offense.
The issue is, how do we deal with these accidents and outliers? I think the challenge is we need to actually have a sit-down conversation. We need to analyze what causes these and then figure out, is there something we can do to make sure they don't happen while making sure cops are safe when they do their jobs?
Yeah. There's not a cop that I've ever spoken to that agrees with what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd.
Yep. Same.
That they would agree with that, and he should go to prison. But gentlemen, there are hundreds of thousands of stops made, up to millions, each and every month.
Yep.
Each and every month on traffic stops. And you're going to find law enforcement officers that make judgment calls, and they could be the wrong call. You're going to get some that are going to get scared. You talk about Uvalde. Now, why did those guys not go into that building? I don't know. But the point is it's a very, very difficult job, and everybody should go through what that media person went through.
Yeah.
You know, we have police academy training, Citizens Police Academy. It's a FATS training, and they go through it and they realize it's just not as easy as it just seems like. So the point is that there's very, very few officer involved shootings today. I mean, come on. When you look at the number of contacts with citizens today, very few result in police officers firing their weapons, and when they do, they're scrutinized before the damn bullet even hits the. It's just crazy.
I think it's 375 million interactions per year, something like that. And out of that, there were, I think, 9 unarmed black men killed in 2019?
And even that is a little deceptive, right? Because first of all, it's possible to shoot someone who's armed and for that to be unjustified, but also it's possible to shoot an unarmed person and for that to be justified. Right. So when you look into these unarmed cases, one of them from a couple of years ago I was looking at was he was strangling an old lady and then went to attack the cop. It's just insane. So even if you hear the words unarmed black man shot by police officer, you don't know anything about the story until you know something about the story.
You see that viral video where the guy's coming at the cop with a knife? And he's backing away for like 30 seconds going, no. But then the guy grabs his partner and he goes, no. And then he starts shooting the guy and the guy gets shot and he gets back up. He gets shot because he's coming at the cop. Then after being shot, he grabs his partner and then the cop shoots him in the head. Yeah. It's like people, you know what I think? One of the issues is it's the algorithmic psychosis, I call it. Let's say you're 10 years old and the year is 2012. And you open up Facebook, and the only thing you're seeing is police brutality videos. Yep. Remember that song where it's like, this is what you get when you call the cops, and it's like the guy rapping, where it's like, it's a really good song. But it's like Facebook recycles those videos because it gets clicks and people make money. So then other people recycle them. Reddit was doing the same thing. 10 years goes by where you're 10 years old watching these videos, and for 10 years, it's all you see. You believe that is the world.
Oh, bro, that's what I was telling you before. That's why literally at 40 years old, it's like the first time I'm talking to conservatives or law enforcement and by the way, all the law enforcement friends I have said the exact same thing that you said about the George Floyd murder, where they were the most horrified. And I think if we got rid of this us versus them mentality, and then we could let the good cops speak up and be like, that shouldn't have happened, and then they go continue to be good cops.
I think there are issues, but I think with 375 million interactions, we're talking about like a microscopic fraction of error. Yeah. And so there's something else that I refer to as the scaling problem. And I'll put it this way. Most of you if you watch consistently, you may have heard me say it. Let's say iPhone gives out 100 phones to these celebrities, and 1% of those phones break. Nobody cares. One celebrity comes out and he's like, hey, my phone broke. And they're like, oh, that sucks. Mm-hmm. Let's say they give it 100 million phones and 1% break. Now online, trending, 1 million tweets, broken phone. And like, whoa, all these phones are broken. The same failure rate. So if you have 375 million police interactions, the margin of the acceptable margin of error decreases as time goes on. If you had 100 cops in the United States and 1% brutalized someone, that's one cop. People would be like, it was just one cop. Who cares?
I'm waiting for...
you get 100 million cops, and now you got a million police brutality stories. People are going to lose their mind, which means you've got to reduce the margin of error as you scale up the size. Yeah. That's impossible to do infinitely.
And Tim, it seems like the answer to this problem we have with police brutality is that we're going to defund them. Matter of fact, not defund them. We're just going to completely abolish them. But I think a solid majority of the American people support the men and women in blue. It's that small group that's out there just raising Cain and just causing problems.
Well,
I was
going to say, I can speak as someone who, during the emotion of everything that happened with George Floyd, I was listening to a lot of the Defund the Police people until I moved to Texas and I started talking to more police. And police were saying, hey, dude, we don't like what happened either. We actually, if you defund us, that's less training.
Right.
And we actually need more training and we need more resources. And what you're going to do if you deplete us, now we're working more. I have a buddy on SWAT. We're working more hours. We're understaffed. It's like, you think that's going to help judgment?
Jamie, would you do your buddy's job for $70,000 a year?
Would I what?
Would you do his job, the law enforcement, the man on the SWAT team?
At this point, if I could train and if I could do it, yeah, but that's because I'm becoming a psychopath. I was like, I would do it in a heartbeat. but a lot of people on the left would not, if that's what you were going for.
I just think people are leaving the industry. People are leaving the profession because just the criticism and all the anti-police rhetoric out there. And
then you're going to lose good ones.
I tell you, it's dangerous. Well, you look at some of the cities now. Yeah. Look at the homicide rates. The crime's going up through the roof. Why? Yeah. Well, just keep down with that defund the police and all that and this and that, and you won't have police protecting their neighborhoods.
I tweeted this about Uvalde. I said, this is what happens when you defund the police. And then everyone was like, they were well funded, you're wrong. And it's just like, you need to understand the subtlety here. When the police are demoralized, demonized, and attacked relentlessly, they're going to be like, I'm out, don't care. I do want to add, though, I'm a little salty on cops considering what happened with COVID. Because too many cops, for one, I'll say a few things. Cops enforcing unconstitutional gun laws, I think, is a problem. And during COVID, cops enforcing unconstitutional edict was a huge problem. And the one thing that was a big wake-up call for conservatives and why a lot of Trump supporters and conservatives soured on support for cops was because we saw cafe owners, salon owners, while the Democrats...
gym owners, yep.
Yeah, gym owners,
huge.
Attila's Gym. Mm-hmm. When you had the Democrats releasing prisoners and inmates who commit violent crimes and then taking business owners and putting them back in... People got really pissed off about that.
But I tell you, where did you see that though? You saw that in these large municipalities where there are police departments that work for a chief of police who works for the mayor and the city council. So you didn't see that with sheriffs. You saw the sheriffs; they're elected. The only people there could be some far left sheriffs out there that would be doing that too. But a majority of the sheriff says, I'm not enforcing that. I wasn't going to enforce mask mandates because I only answer to the people that elect me.
Wow.
Chiefs of police have to answer to mayors, and the mayor's going to tell the chief, you get your people to do it. If you want to keep your job, you're going to do exactly what the heck I tell you to do. That makes it a little bit more difficult as it relates to municipal police departments and sheriff's offices and who their boss is.
But that's a big distinction. There was one instance where a sheriff in Minnesota went and arrested a cafe owner for opening a cafe. But again, I'm not going to point to one case and be like, all the cops. But a lot of people were just like, if this is what the cities are doing. So my attitude is kind of like, if New York wants to abolish the cops, let them do it. I don't live there. Let the people see how, and you see how it's going. But I do kind of think maybe an easy solution is cops should be elected. Like, you shouldn't have a chief of police who's appointed by a political individual who then has his job held over him. We should vote for who the police chief is.
Well, they don't survive very long. Chiefs of police, their tenure as chief is because a new mayor comes in, he wants to bring in his own his own buddy.
Well, there's always a cop that they have to deal with who doesn't play by the rules, and he's going to retire soon, and then they get into it. And I was hoping someone picked up on that. I was really proud of it, and as I was saying it, I was like, "Oh, it's dying."
It is very. But no, you said something earlier about how you think most people actually do support the police. Part of why I would agree with that is because people as spineless as Joe Biden during his State of the Union address were willing to say,
Seamus.
"Well, we need the police to be well funded," which is what Joe Biden said during his State of the Union address. No, don't defund them, defend them. Like, interesting.
Right.
Yes, yeah. So this is becoming a safe position in the polls. I'm sure it always has been, but it's something Democrats are even willing to say at this point.
Well, when people are watching violent crime skyrocket, some dude pushed a woman on the train tracks in New York. People don't want to live there, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and it's not just in New York City, it's all the cities. Crime is through the roof.
And they're moving to Texas.
Yeah.
You know, we gained 2 congressional seats. New York
yeah.
lost one, California lost one. Yeah. We're hoping they're not bringing that ideology into Texas. I think we should interview them before we actually allow them to come in. But they're moving into Texas, and you look at, you know, we have constitutional carry. Yeah. I mean, we have just, Texas is one of the greatest states. I'm proud to be from it.
I moved from LA to Austin, and everybody I met was like, how are you going to vote? How are you going to vote? You're going to change. If you're going to come, how are you going to vote? But then the worst thing I saw was there's a bumper sticker that says, don't California my Texas. And the first time I saw it, it was a dude with a Florida license plate. And I'm like, come on, man.
You're in the most liberal city in the whole state.
Oh, I know.
Travis County. I mean, it's horrible.
Austin is very, very, very different. It's all just wellness podcasters.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yes, sir, it is.
So here's the issue with Texas. You know, everybody was telling me, like, you guys should move there. You guys should move there. And I was just like, no way. Because Elon Musk, he's cool, right? But when he moves and builds a factory in Austin and relocates his California employees, those people are progressive. They're liberals. So it's not just about Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. It's about everyone they bring with them. And then when, Jamie, you end up moving there.
Hello.
You got Michael Malice. You get these prominent individuals, comedians, and podcasters. Then the periphery of those groups are going to come as well. And then California moves to Texas.
Right.
People were like, no, it's good that these people are moving because they're helping Texas and they're making it red. And I'm like, maybe. But what's going to happen is a California conservative is a far left Texan.
Yeah.
And they come in and they'll vote Republican because they don't like California leftism, which is coming to Texas, and they'll make Texas moderate, not Republican.
Sure.
Eventually, I mean, but look at 2020. Trump won Texas by 600,000. You saw the congressional race we hear. I think is Texas 34. First time ever in the history have we seen a female Mexican born in Mexico become a member of Congress. So I think many of the policies of the left with the border and everything else, people are, I think we're going to do very, very well in the state of Texas here in November. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.